Velkommen alle sammen. The final season of The Last Kingdom has just been released. I shouldn't say season, because it was actually a full-length movie. It's the problem, unfortunately. I don't know why they did this. 6 amazing seasons with 10 episodes each season, and then this last 7th release, they decided to bundle an entire book and season all into a movie that wasn't even 2 hours long. It was really not good. It moved too fast. The plot was all over the place. No character development, and they could have really made an amazing final season here with multiple episodes, but they turned it into one bad movie. I was not impressed, but don't worry, Last Kingdom, we still love you. You're still the best Viking TV series. Even though they ended it on kind of a bad note, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the historical accuracy, because there are some very accurate historical events and figures in this show, but it's blended with a bunch of shite too. So we're here to speak about the differences so you know what was the reality and what was not. So the time period we're in is right about the mid-900s. I think about the when Athelstan took the crown in real life. I think it was about 930, but I'll put the exact date here. The historical characters. Uhtred was very much based on a real historical figure. Yes, loosely based, but the time period is off there. The real Uhtred would have ruled more than 70 years after Uhtred actually lived in the show. Next, we have King Edward, who died at the beginning without announcing leaving an heir, leaving his sons to basically fight over the throne. The sons were Ælfweard, who was shortly after his death killed by Athelstan, who becomes king thereafter. And then the third, much younger brother, was Edmund, who was said that would be king should Athelstan die without any heirs. Like, this doesn't happen in the movie, but that's what they say. And the Last Kingdom got pretty much all of that spot on, although the history books don't go into as much detail about exactly what happened. We do know that Ælfweard did die shortly after his father Edward's death, and then Athelstan took over. So most of that in the big picture is actually correct. But let's talk about the elephant in the room here. The reason you are probably all here is Netflix. It's the year 2023. They're gonna make someone gay. Okay, that's fine. It's not even a question now. We know this is gonna happen in any series that is coming out. You know, they made King Athelstan gay with his Christian Dane lover, Ingimundur, who was actually a real historical figure, although with him too the timeline was a bit off. Okay, so we know this. It's 2023 Hollywood, and the producers have their motives. Then they're going to make this happen. That's fine, and then maybe gays want to feel represented in history too. That's all cool. That's the world we live in these days. I'm not bothered by that. But did they have to make King Athelstan gay? One of the greatest kings in English history. And I'll tell you what did bother me though. At one point in the show, some Vikings were talking and they were saying something like, maybe not in our culture, the Norse culture, but your English culture, it's a big problem for a Christian king to be gay. This is somehow suggesting that same-sex relations was forbidden by Christianity and automatically accepted by the pagan religions, of course. This has been debunked. I've done a couple videos with all those sources. You can check it out here. Look, we can admit, okay, that gays have not exactly been treated well throughout human history, Christian or pagan. It was wrong. We learned from it. Let's move forward. We don't have to make up lies about history. What I did like, though, with King Athelstan having a Viking as a gay lover, although we have no evidence that he was actually gay, besides the fact that he didn't have any official children that we know about. But what we do know is that Athelstan was actually very good friends with many Vikings. At this time in history, Norse and English relations were at an all-time high. They had a great relationship, especially with the Norwegians. Athelstan was great friends with the Norwegian king, Harald Fairhair, and even his son, Erik Bloodaxe. Athelstan also fostered and raised the great Norwegian king Håkon the Good as a child. Not just kings, but Athelstan was also friends with many regular men like Egil and his brother Torolf. So I did like how Athelstan in the show was actually friendly with the Norse. I did not like how Athelstan was urged by his gay lover Ingemundir basically to force baptism on pagans and destroy pagan sacred sites and monuments like they did in the show, because the real King Athelstan had no problem with pagans. He was friends with them. You know, there were many Christian kings at the time during the Viking Age that were that did some horrible things to pagans and were not friends. But I'm happy to say King Athelstan was not one of them. He never had anything against pagans. He was great friends with many, like I said, pagan kings and also just regular average men. Other than that, I'd like to speak a little bit about the Scottish alliance that came in. In the show, it was basically the Scots and a bunch of different Viking factions all coming together to fight against the English king Athelstan. This actually was a real battle, the Battle of Brunneburg. This actually happened, and pretty accurately to what was depicted at the end of the show. The Scots teamed up with the Welsh and the Vikings living in Ireland, and they all evaded and fought against Athelstan and the English at this battle. But in the show, it showed how the Vikings that were living in the northern Scottish Isles were also teaming up with the Scots against Athelstan. That part did not happen in real life. First of all, there were no kings in the Viking-settled areas of Scotland, like the Scottish Isles, like the Shetlands, the Orkneys, and so on. There were only chieftains there. Second of all, if anything, the Norwegian settlers there would have been fighting alongside the English, like as mercenaries or even just as friends. Like I said, King Athelstan was great friends with many Norwegians, which is primarily who settled in the Scottish Isles, and even Iceland. We have historical records that Icelandic Vikings in pretty large numbers came to England and actually fought on the side of Athelstan against the Scots and even against other Vikings, other Danes or other Vikings that were settled in Ireland. So that's just one final note I wanted to make on that series, because it makes me proud actually that there was a strong Norwegian and English alliance at the time, and that is one part of history that most people don't know about. So that is all the main kind of historical inaccuracies cleared up about this show, but there are a few little smaller ones. Let me know. Do you guys know any? Let us know in the comments. Any opinions of it? Did you like the movie? Did you not? As for me, I definitely prefer the previous seasons, but like the other Vikings TV show, it kind of all went downhill when Ragnar died, but that's just my opinion. Well, that's all for today. Vi ses nästa gång.